Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good Goose podcast, where we tell you everything that's on our minds and what's in the headlines. I am Nick.
And I am Zach.
Your volume is up. I didn't forget. Trust me.
Okay.
I pulled it up during the intro because I knew once I told you that you weren't going to say anything. But if I don't, then you're just going to be like, yeah. So let me tell you about this hemorrhoid I got and how horrible it is, or something like that. First of all, Zach, we're back.
After dinosaurs.
Just like the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I've actually never fully seen from beginning to end, by the way.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I've heard it's depressing as hell, though. Like, it's...
No.
On a scale of, like, let's see, Jurassic Park to, oh, crap, what is it called? A dinosaur? No. Land Before Time. Land Before Time. So on a scale of... Actually, that's a good... quality, like Dinosaur, which isn't sad at all, to Land Before Time, which is very sad. What is the scale of like sadness when it comes to dinosaur sadness?
It was probably somewhere in the middle there. It's a standard Don Bluth sort of animated film,
I guess. I just know that with his movies, he tends to go like all in on the very adult themes.
I mean, it's not like to the extent of All Dogs Go to Heaven or anything. But
Right.
Yeah. It's dinosaurs in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, you know?
I know we've had this conversation before, but like I have a hard time remembering which movies are Don Bluth movies. Would you be able to go over which ones are Don Bluth movies?
Off the top of my head, there's All Dogs Go to Heaven, All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, We're Back. I think Troll in Central Park is one.
Never heard of that movie.
Swan Princess. I think Rockadoodle is one too.
That one sounds right.
I think Rockadoodle might have been the last Don Bluth one.
Troll in Central Park.
Yep, Don Bluth. Damn. You know what? There's not many times that I'm like, let me stretch my Don Bluth knowledge here or anything. But you know what? I'm kind of impressed that I was able to remember that Troll in Central Park was one.
So we're going by like director, right? Like
yeah, I mean, generally anything that he directed had his specific art style and animation style.
So like Titan AE, Anastasia.
Oh, Titan AE, that was the last one because that like totally bankrupted the company.
Yeah,
it was such a colossal failure.
Oh my god, I'm gonna see The Gray Man. Just leave me alone. Matt Damon, Bill Pullman, Jim Brewer, Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, Secret of Nim is another one.
What's another one? American Tail, Land Before Time. Like those are the movies, and Dragon Slayer.
American Tail, Five Goes West. Is Pebble and the Penguin one? I think is that on there? Yeah, at the top there it is.
Yeah. The Pebble and the Penguin. I thought you said the Pitbull and the Penguin. I'm like, those two characters aren't going to be in the same. It doesn't look like American Tail, Fightful Goes West is directed by him.
American Tail is at the bottom there.
No, I know, but like the Fightful Goes West is the sequel.
Yes.
Hold on. We'll just Fightful.
Maybe he didn't direct it. It's a V, I believe. Fievel.
There we go. I had it. Phil Nibbleneck and Simon Wells. So I guess he wasn't. Maybe his studio was involved, but he wasn't.
Yeah, I'm sure the studio was because that's definitely his art style.
Yeah, well, there you go. Anywho,
you know what? Shockingly, though, I just realized I don't think We're Back was on there.
Oh, really? Is We're Back not I don't see it.
Let's see.
So just after all of that, after all that preamble,
Is We're Back a Don Bluth film?
It's gonna autocomplete.
Oh yeah, it's the studio. He
It's a
just
studio.
didn't direct it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But this is the Good Goose podcast, where we talk about everything that's in the news and what's on our minds. I think that's the intro. It's been a minute. Last week we tried to record a podcast, and the internet shit the bed. More specifically,
Technical
mine.
difficulties.
And so we weren't able to catch up and talk about all the things that were happening in our lives then. But now we can. It's going to be a very hectic episode, Zach.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, just between technical difficulties the last week and then just, emotional and mental states for us before that, it was just like we've been on a little bit of a break here, but we're back.
We're back.
Like the dinosaurs.
Hence the tirade. Yes. let's not loop back around, please. So yeah, did you want to start? Catch us up
sure,
on?
Yeah, I can go down the rabbit hole, as it were.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on any specific singular thing. I'm still watching Miss Marvel. I'm an episode behind now, so I gotta watch the latest one. But that's been very enjoyable. Finished Obi-Wan. I don't know what your feelings on that, but I left that feeling pretty pleased.
You know what's funny?
All things considered.
Solid 6, leaning more towards 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, and it's a more current topic, but did you hear about the guy who edited Obi-Wan down to a 2.5-hour movie?
I did see that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was able to get my hands on it. I haven't checked it out yet, just because it's so recent, and
Right.
I watched the whole series. But I've been told, or I've read that it's actually so much better, because he gets rid of a lot of the things that people were complaining about, and managed to shrink it down.
That doesn't surprise me. There's I think with these 6-episode mini show formats, we're running into a bit of a pacing problem for a lot of the shows, and I think we've talked about it before, where that should be enough time for you to do everything that you need to do within a show. But when you're that compacted as well, it leaves you very little time for any missteps.
Yeah.
So when they're there, they're more noticeable than, say, like a 24 episode run of a season where there's 6 or 7 episodes of filler or whatever. Then you're just able to go that's filler, or that's character building off to the side or whatever. Right. That's not mandatory or anything. But you still have an extra, some leeway in terms of what you do with the main plot and how you get from point A to point B in a ordinate amount of time. Whereas with these 6 episode sort of things, if you kind of fuck up at the beginning or really anywhere, you're gonna feel it more.
I completely agree. I definitely think that and I'm probably just going to reiterate what you said, but with the 24 episode runs, or with the just essentially longer than 6 episodes, you have more time for character development. You have more time to build the world. You have more time to kind of stretch out the story so that it doesn't feel as condensed as, say, a 2-hour movie, which is what the 6 episode series is trying to do. It's trying to compromise by being, it's like 2 movies mushed into one, and you're kind of okay, we're having to cut out a lot of stuff. This is Harry Potter all over again, where a lot of the development of the characters is getting condensed and or outright just cut, and so people are missing out, or it feels disjointed. Which is ironic, because you bring up both Miss Marvel and Obi-Wan, and I feel like Miss Marvel is doing a hell of a lot better job with the same exact amount of episodes. Yeah,
so that's the thing, right? Is 6 episodes is a really good length if your writing is on point, because it's your pacing is fantastic. You don't feel like you're lagging too much, and it doesn't overstay its welcome or anything. The problem comes in when you have that smushed in timetable, and you're kind of like spinning your wheels sometimes. And I don't think like, in my opinion, Obi-Wan is not like horrible or anything. And I enjoyed it, all the things considered. But I am able to recognize that there are some shortcomings here and there in terms of the writing. That doesn't mean that like I throw the baby out with the bathwater or anything, but you can definitely feel it. And with something like Miss Marvel, where it feels like it's firing on all cylinders every episode, that's your sweet spot, right? Like you're gonna get to the end of that show and feel better about your time spent with that, as opposed to something like you're in the vein of Obi-Wan, quality-wise, that's stretched out over 24 episodes. You do have that leeway, but it's not as solid as a really well done 6-episode thing.
I also think that a major factor between these two different shows is that we have, well, one, the Obi-Wan series is set in a time period of a universe that is well established, that we know the results of these characters. We know what's going to happen. And while they may be beloved and we may get some really cool scenes like the Darth Vader and Obi-Wan battle at, is it episode 6 or 5? 6. It was the last episode. And that was a great finale to that series.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But what I think Miss Marvel has that Obi-Wan never had is that it's establishing a new character. It's putting representation into an established universe. It's building towards something that we have yet to realize or discover. And so the possibilities are kind of endless with this character's story. Whereas with Obi-Wan, it was kind of boxed in with its possibilities. So
yeah, and you did have Reva in there for Obi-Wan, but you can't afford too much of your runtime to a new character like that,
right?
When your central push of the show is this, strained, to put it lightly, relationship between Obi-Wan and Vader. Like that's what your main focus is. And your B plot, essentially, that coincides with your A plot, is with Reva.
Yeah.
But you just don't have enough time to do that character justice if you're juggling all these moving parts and you're trying to, compact it into a 6-episode run that's already having some difficulties. And it came out a week or two ago, I think, that Obi-Wan was originally supposed to be a film trilogy. One, if you're going to do the same story beats as what you did in the show, I don't even know how you'd manage to do that, unless you just like excised a bunch of stuff that didn't make it into the show, which I wouldn't be surprised. But two, I don't know, like, if that the base narrative would really benefit from that. I think they made the right call with going with a short series, but we go back to that kind of feeling of missed opportunity. Like there's something just didn't quite click as much as it could have. So yeah, all that to say is, I did enjoy it. I especially enjoyed the last episode. I didn't come away, after watching it going like, man, I just wasted 2 hours of my time out of the, 6 that I used to watch that.
Right.
Or whatever. But it does feel like it could have been better than it was.
It's not perfect, but for what it is, I think it's kind of a fun extra, side quest, essentially. And it's not even essential, but with the we won't get into like the fandom being shitty, because we've already talked about the ad infinitum. But is ad infinitum or ad infinitum?
Ad infinitum. I don't want to do Latin.
Me neither. We have somebody that knows Latin, but he's currently doctoring small children. So
yes. I could do E pluribus unum.
There you go. Too bad that's not on the fucking coin anymore. Do we
That's
want
probably a
to?
good thing it's not, right?
Well, I mean, it's. I would rather have that than In God We Trust, but that's a
Oh, I thought
whole
that was. I thought.
chestnut.
What's E pluribus? Is
Uh,
that truth prevails?
for all liberty for all or all for one. Hold on. Let's Google this. What does a
Please. Pluribus. This is. You're gonna get there.
one from many, which I like.
Yeah.
That's better than In God We Trust.
That is much better, actually. Yeah. Oh wow.
Because of the whole separation of church and state. And do you want to get into that? Do you want to get into all that stuff that's going on?
I mean, we can. I was going to talk about Multiverse of Madness, but that's cool too.
I mean, so you finally watched Multiverse of Madness. That's fine.
I did, yes.
What did you think?
So I know your feelings were kind of mixed on it, and funnily enough, I watched this with Casey, and one of her top three, favorite Marvel movies, MCU movies up to this point, was the first Doctor Strange movie, and so she was pretty excited to see this. Did not like it at all. I, on the other hand, I thought it was dope.
Yeah.
Super hyped for a lot of it. I loved all the Raimi touches. Like that was a Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah.
And he pushed the limit of a PG-13 movie as hard as he could. And there's some pretty dark and gruesome stuff in there. And is it the strongest film? No, I don't think really anyone could say that about any of the Phase 4 movies. But I enjoyed it, and it felt different. It felt like a filmmaker's version, their specific version of an MCU movie, within the confines of. Obviously they have their stipulations or whatever to fit into Feige's overall plans and whatnot, but with what he had available to him, Raimi did as much to make this feel like his version of a Marvel movie as he could. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I did. I warned you that because when I saw it in theaters, that it was basically going to be doing exactly everything that you were describing, and that it's a Sam Raimi film first, and then a Marvel movie second. He does push the limit on what he does. A lot of people were split on this movie because of specific choices in cameos and Easter eggs and what it means for the rest of the MCU. There are people who are part of the fan base that are like, all right, what does this have to do? How does this contribute to where the MCU is going post Phase 4? And the counter argument is, hey, this is it's Phase 1, second edition, basically, in that it's building a lot of these characters up. And it's I actually saw a theory on TikTok, of all places, that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is not a Doctor Strange movie at all, but it's a movie about America. And it's essentially it's a non-solo solo film for her, and about how she is having to deal with the repercussions of not knowing how to use her powers.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of interesting because we are kind of leading towards a Young Avengers / Thunderbolts / Secret Invasions / all kinds of different story arcs in the comics. And so it's kind of interesting to see how they're building towards that. And I'm going to be interested to find once you finally check out some movie I just saw, Thor: Love and Thunder, what you're going to think of that movie.
Yeah, it's really interesting with a bunch of these Phase 4 movies. We were kind of chit-chatting about it in our group chat a couple of days ago, but a lot of it is it's a litmus test to what you are where you're going to fall on how you are taking this Phase 4 direction. And it doesn't seem like there's a conclusive thought on the phase as a whole at this point either. You know, like personally, I didn't really like Eternals all that much. I thought that that's a huge missed opportunity there. It was fine. But I don't really feel like I'm ever gonna have the desire to go back and watch that. Whereas other people really liked Eternals. And then, we have Multiverse of Madness that is also very divisive. Some people, kind of put it in the camp of No Way Home, where it's just big cameo fest and like, oh, throw so and so on the screen and get your claps in the theaters and whatnot. And yada, yada, yada. But then there's people like me who are like, I really like the feel of this movie when you compare it to the other 30 or whatever films that are part of the MCU up to this point. And from what I'm seeing with Love and Thunder, it's a similar sort of divide of, whether or not you really like that direction, or if you're kind of like, wow, they're really dropping the ball here on this phase 4.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have anything to. Sorry about the birds, by the way.
Dear really God, I want to kill them.
They were really quiet, literally right before we started recording, and then all of a sudden they're just like
they're big Marvel fans, apparently.
Yeah.
Good Lord, I love you, and I love your choice in pets and apartment and everything. But I'm Sylvestering right now. I'm getting all.
Well, here, let me mute them while you tell me your thoughts on Love and Thunder.
Okay, so it's so quiet now. No, so Thor: Love and Thunder. If you weren't able to check out our stream with Glenn Gooseman, PhD, it's very much a Taika Waititi film, like Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and that they're letting their directors with Phase 4 kind of have more creative control, realizing that they had trouble in the past with balancing that studio interference, quote unquote, with and their plan with the director's creative vision. And what I appreciated in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I'm just going to call Doctor Strange 2 from this point on, I kind of disliked with Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor Ragnarok was a huge achievement in not only continuing the adventures of Thor and his character and having him be more open and just kind of going off on his own adventure, whereas he was always kind of included with other characters. And I know Hulk is in Thor Ragnarok, but it felt new and unique, whereas the previous 2 Thor movies were just kind of dark, brooding Thor, and he was really kind of a meh character, but he finally had his own personality. That continues in Thor: Love and Thunder, but to the maximum. Think Thor Ragnarok, but like with all kinds of 80s glam and glitter like sprinkled on top of it. For better and worse, because the action set pieces are the highlight of the movie. There's some great action choreography and some very unique and funny scenes between Thor, the Guardians, and the opening sequence, which you can see in the trailer. Christian Bale is a highlight, of course, as a villain, because he's a phenomenal actor. He has experience. He was able to bring a lot to the character. However, I do feel like they don't do enough with his motivations. They don't do enough to make me... I'm not saying we should sympathize with him because he is the villain. He is the antagonist for the film. But he has a pretty sympathetic reason as to why he's doing what he's doing. And it shows in a prologue and it shows throughout the story. But what you're really supposed to feel is this is a menacing, dark character, and we need to make sure we need to cheer for Thor whenever he's trying to stop him, etc., etc. That, along with Jane Foster returning, played by Natalie Portman, of course, returning after her hiatus, one would say, long, like, I don't want to do Marvel anymore. And then they're like, but you get to wield Mjolnir this time. And they're like, she's like, all right, fine. I'm not doing Star Wars anytime soon. I'm not doing Marvel anytime soon. So whatever. She's great. If you're familiar with the Mighty Thor comic book run, you're aware of her backstory that is implemented in this movie. She does have stage 4 cancer. I don't believe they specified what kind of cancer, but it's stage 4, so it doesn't matter. It's basically terminal. However,
Do they lay that out up front?
the first time you see her, she's in chemo.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's not like subtle or like implied. It's she's talking to a fan of hers in chemo.
Gotcha.
And they treat it very, very well. It's obviously a very serious topic, but because of how the movie is framed, and Thor, literally every line of Thor's is a joke. It's a setup or a punchline. And that's both good and bad because we're so used to these characters being like jokey, sarcastic, playful, charismatic kind of characters. Literally every single male protagonist, at least. And with this movie, it's kind of every character is that kind of jokey, sarcastic. Valkyrie's played by Tessa Thompson, returns, of course, as King Valkyrie. And she's like, I'm sick of being a politician. I want to go on one last adventure. She tags along. Korg tags along. And of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy are only in it for like a little bit. Don't like be surprised that they're not going to overstay their welcome or anything, which is kind of sad because we're not going to get a Guardians of the Galaxy until next year. I believe summer of next year. We are getting the holiday special, but and I Am Groot. Oh, actually,
yeah,
we'll be fine.
You can kind of tell from the trailers that it's like, okay, this is like Guardians is like the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then
basically the opening sequence, and then they're like, we're kind of sick of you, Thor. Spoiler. But yeah, I really didn't like the 30, 45 minutes leading up to the kind of the second half of the film. And it's just shy of 2 hours. It's a little bit of a shorter Marvel entry, which is unique and interesting because they have been kind of leaning towards the longer runtimes recently with Eternals and with Doctor Strange. But Russell Crowe is also amazing as Zeus. And that kind of whole sequence where they're in Omnipotent City, which is where there's like basically every god is there hanging out and having orgies. By the way, the word orgy is used like multiple times. I'm surprised Disney is just like letting it happen. And the one thing I will appreciate about this movie is that with Taika Waititi's direction, he definitely gives representation to a lot of LGBTQIA plus members. Zach is having a little powwow with his birds like, hey, I need you to fucking chill out. And what are you doing? Why are you screaming, man? I will put a blanket over you. I will throw this cage outside. I will do it. But anyway, yeah, it's definitely leaning more towards my Eternals kind of ranking of it being just okay. And like there are parts of this movie that I love. It's a very colorful, very bombastic, very funny movie. But there are some like very serious moments of this movie that should be serious that are just undercut with a joke. And I'm like, I am not going to laugh because like it's a funny joke, but it's a serious moment. We're talking about this character dying and you're talking about like, no, you'll be fine. Blah, 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 blah. I don't want to spoil anything, but
yeah, that is a lot of the criticism I'm seeing, that there's a sort of tonal dissonance, not only with guys. What the hell? We just had this conversation. Buttholes. Total dissonance between not only the advertising, because it sort of looks like this, action rom-com sort of thing, and as well as the tonal dissonance within the actual film itself, where you're kind of still trying to do all these bits and jokes and stuff with subject material that is like, I don't know about that one. That feels a little, you motherfuckers. You little bastards.
Well, and like, yeah, there's a scene where Thor is like talking to these kidnapped children, and he's like, "Oh, you'll be fine. You know, I was kidnapped once. You'll be all right." And these kids are like, "No, we're terrified. You need to come help us. You need to come save us." And he's like, "Nah, I'll be." And like they start like trying to reach for him. He's like, "Ah, get me out of here," because he's like being mind projected. It's a whole thing. It's my biggest complaint is definitely the tonality that's kind of just thrown for a loop. It's just kind of out of whack, and I definitely feel like that's Taika Waititi's intention with the story, and what leads to be a detriment for the film overall. It's still a fun film for the whole family. You get to see some Chris Hemsworth butt. You get to see like a lot of abs. Like I said, a lot of gay, bi, and trans representation in this film, which is I think is great. It's not like beat you over the head with it if you're one of those fucking asshole stuck up your ass hypocrites. But it's great, you know. I'm interested to see where it leads. Like I said before with Doctor Strange 2, where it leads with the rest of the MCU, because they not only introduce new characters that could have impacts, but also like storylines that are not necessarily referenced in previous comics or current comics. So it's kind of like, what does that mean? And a character is introduced in the movie that I won't spoil for you, Zach, or anyone else, because it just came out. But it is a fan favorite character from a show that you and I both love, Zach. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. And when you eventually do see it, you're gonna go, holy shit! Not for the character itself, but because that actor is going to play that character in the future of the MCU to any sort of degree.
Okay.
Because you like the actor.
Yeah. There was a moment like that in Multiverse of Madness, where I had not been spoiled on them showing up, and I literally went, holy shit. And there's even like a little musical cue when they show up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, that you literally just did the thing, didn't you?
Yep.
So that doesn't surprise me that they're keeping that energy.
Well, moving back to the Doctor Strange 2 talk for just a second, and I'm honestly shocked that you were not spoiled at all for Doctor Strange 2.
I was spoiled on one member of like the big group that shows up,
mm-hmm.
but that was really it. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I got spoiled, but I think that was it.
Are we talking about the fan cast character that Kevin Feige's like, let's put him in? Okay.
Yeah.
Who won't show up again? I guarantee.
Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah. But yeah, the rest of that group, with one specific standout in particular, that was what I was like, wow, this did not show up at all on my radar. Like, that was legitimately probably the first time in a long time that I've been surprised by like a Marvel cameo because I wasn't spoiled on it beforehand.
It's a good feeling. It's a rare feeling, especially when you are going the course of waiting until they're on streaming to check them out. But yeah, this has been our movie corner, talking about movies and pop culture and topics and popcorn and yum.
How much time we got?
I don't know. We're 35 minutes in. We're halfway done.
Okay, we're good. I did also in the between times. I was able to play a couple of smaller games that were just real quick. I played Kena Bridge of Spirits, or Kena.
Yeah, it's Kena.
Which was originally a PS5 launch title, but I believe it's on Steam now.
It's on Epic Game Store. And that's why I haven't played it, is because it's on EGS.
Well, hopefully that makes the jump at some point. Or you people out there who are unfortunately unable to get a PS5 at the moment will eventually be able to get it. But when you do, or it shows up somewhere other than the shithole that is EGS. Um, it's a really fun, like, neat little platformer. It's very, of course, a Zelda like, you're going through dungeons and solving specific puzzles with tools that you get, interspersed throughout your journey. And yeah, it's just a quick, like, maybe 6 or 7 hour playthrough. I bet you could probably get through it in like 4 hours if you just really gunned it and didn't do any of the side stuff. I think with me 100%ing it, I think I played it for about 12 hours or so.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I want to go. That's where I want to go with games, is that we should be able to have any one of those numbers, if depending on our play style, the 4 hours, the 6 to 8 hours, and then the 12 hours. And that should be it.
Yeah. It's really satisfying when you get just a contained, well-paced sort of game that you can go in, do what you want to do, and then bounce out. Very pretty. Art direction is great. I will say that there are some pretty striking technical issues, even with the PS5 version. I don't know if that's present in the EGS PC version.
I would imagine so.
But there's quite a bit of hitching and cutscenes. It's very noticeable, which I was surprised about. But I believe it's a pretty small team, so I don't want to harp on that too much, because outside of the cutscenes, for some reason, which you would think, oh, this is pre-rendered or whatever, that it wouldn't have that issue. But it's actually, that's where it really struggles the most, and gameplay wise it's smooth all the time. And then after I finished that, I got to run through the Forgotten City. I don't know if you're familiar with this at all.
Is that the H.P. Lovecraft game?
No, you're thinking of Seeking City, which I still do need to play. Because I heard pretty good things about it. Forgotten City is actually a game that started off as a Skyrim mod. And hey.
I like how they totally know what they're doing. And they shut up as soon as you
They're little assholes sometimes. It's just weird, we were so chill. Like I even said before we started recording, because they were kind of active beforehand, like, oh, they've chilled out. All right, well, I guess they're gonna be quiet for the whole podcast. And no, they're gonna be even worse.
Does the blanket trick work with them? Like, does that trick them into thinking it's nighttime? Or
I mean, it's dark, but it's not bedtime.
Gotcha.
They know bedtime's like 10 for them.
We got a question in the chat, and it's that cameos, were either of you actively searching for the spoilers like in the early phases? To go back to the movie talk.
Yeah, the Marvel discussion. And I'll bounce back to Forgotten City here in a second.
Yes.
I really don't think I am. It's really interesting in terms as Phase 4 as a whole. I don't feel like, because with Phase 2 and onward, pretty much, because Phase 1 was a little bit of an outlier. They were always building towards Thanos, so you kind of always knew that was the end goal. And we have some theoretical ideas of what Phase 4 is is moving towards, with Kang and whatnot.
Incursions.
But there's not like a specific end goal, it feels like, with Phase 4, that the Infinity Saga as a whole was kind of building towards, Infinity War and Endgame. So I think that's really interesting. And in terms of cameos in the same vein, I don't really have a desire to search out those cameos, and a lot of times they're more in your face, it feels like, so you don't really have to do that digging. There's like how many people when Thor 1 came out knew what the Tesseract was, right? Like,
Yeah.
unless you're a big comic person, you were doing a wiki dive, like, what the hell is a Tesseract?
That's what I'm doing now. Basically, every time I leave a Marvel movie or I finish a Marvel show or a Marvel episode, I'm like with Miss Marvel, I'm like, I have no idea who any of these characters are. So I'm looking them up once I roll credits of that episode or movie, and I'm like, okay, who's this character? But I'm not like actively going, okay, what are they going to do? How are they going to be involved in Phase 5 or 6? Are they going to show up in She-Hulk or Fantastic Four or whatever? Like, I'm not doing that, but I'm actively going out of my way after I've finished the story to kind of think and wonder and, give Google the search data they want. But yeah, when it comes to spoilers and stuff, I don't actively go. I mean, I'm seeing these movies the day or the day after they come out, and Zach is actively avoiding spoilers so that he can watch them and enjoy them at home in the correct way. I wish I could do that, but I'm online way too much and watch too many, channels and follow too many people that talk about this stuff. So I would be ruining my own experiences if I didn't do that. So
yeah,
to answer your question.
It's interesting, how much, like, because I'm almost the complete opposite at this point. Like, I'll watch a Marvel movie and be like, okay, that's what that was. And I kind of have a base understanding anyways of, who everyone is and how they relate to other people. But I think the last time I really went down the like, what the fuck is this shit, Marvel rabbit wiki hole,
Ew.
was God,
There's a cream for that.
Yeah, right. I can't even remember doing it in Phase 4. Maybe I offhandedly looked up U.S. Agent for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But other than that,
Yep.
I think it would. I've just been like, you know what? Whatever they're gonna do, they're gonna do. And I know who America Chavez is. I get the basics of Gore the God Butcher, and that's kind of what you get when you start to move into the more modern sort of comic lines or runs, as it were.
Yeah.
I'm pretty up to date on that stuff, so it's not like I haven't really had, other than the previously talked about cameo in Multiverse of Madness, which I was completely surprised by. I haven't had a clap when you see it sort of moment in Marvel in a minute
For like Phase 4 specifically.
Yeah, like, oh man, I can't believe this person's in it. It's like, I don't know if that's me just kind of being along for the ride at this point because there's just been so many fucking Marvel movies, or if it's more of a I feel like they're, other than the end goal of what Phase 4 is, they're being pretty upfront of like, hey, this is who is in this show. Like, oh, here's Kate Bishop. Guess we're building the Young Avengers, and
we're still on that line of like the shows and movies not necessarily super interacting with each other. WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness being the first like prime example of that. Like, if you haven't seen WandaVision, then you're gonna be quite a bit lost with Multiverse of Madness. But that's really been the only example in Phase 4, at least until Quantumania comes out and Secret Invasion comes out. Then it's definitely going to be the repercussions more of the previous entries, previous phases, all that kind of stuff. But it'll be interesting to see. There's still a lot of possibilities. I still feel like we're very much in the alpha phase of this Phase 4, and that we have villains, but we don't know if they're going to be the concrete villains. Like Kang the Conqueror is like, they keep telling us that he's going to be the prime villain, but we thought that about Loki as well.
Well, so far he's only showed up in one thing, and we know he's going to be in Quantumania.
He's also
this goes back to what I was literally just saying. Like, we already have a general idea of what that movie is going to be about. We know who the villain is, so it's not going to be a surprise when Kang shows up. But is that where his involvement when Phase 4 ends, like what's going on with that, and then you have certain characters that show up in Multiverse of Madness that are related to him in certain ways, and it's sort of like there's a bunch of different directions they could go, but it's murky as to where they're directing it.
There's a chance that he may show up in What If Season 2, which we are going to get a preview for at the end of this month, I believe.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. The Marvels, there's a chance because she is a cosmic storyline that he may show up there. This is all before Quantumania, which is why I'm bringing up Secret Invasion, although that's less likely with it being a whole Skrull storyline, so maybe not. They say Moon Knight, but that wasn't true. Not Thor: Love and Thunder. This is a March article. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, maybe. Although, maybe not. And then Fantastic Four, but I believe, and Loki Season 2, which we're also going to be getting information about in the same press conference with What If Season 2. It'll be interesting to see. I definitely feel like, yes, he's a looming threat, and they framed him as the villain, but really all we know is that he's also going to be the villain in Quantumania, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we didn't even know the villain of Multiverse of Madness until the final trailer for Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, it was just sort of theorized, and there's in the trailers you see like the bit with Shumagorath, which is like
Gargantos, not Shumagorath.
Oh yeah. The other one, the other tentacle thing.
Yeah. Anyway, talk about Forbidden City. Talk about Forbidden City.
Yeah. Going back to Forbidden City. So this started as a Skyrim mod, and then it was so well received that the team behind that, I think, got funding from. It was some government funding. I think it was British funding.
Wait, Forgotten City?
The Forgotten City, yeah, that's the one. I would be careful of spoilers.
Let's just play the trailer.
It's anyway, they got funding to do their basically a whole game with what they had envisioned with this mod, and yeah, it's a fun little contained sort of basically if you got a DLC for Skyrim or Oblivion or whatever. It's like a 4-hour, 5-hour sort of mystery sort of quest. You have your markers. There's like 10 or 11 people within this area that you can talk to, and basically, so you wash up on the side of a river, and you're told by this woman on the bank of the river, like, "Hey, go. There's this dude that I just rescued with you. He went into this cave. Can you go follow him and see if you can bring him back, because he's been in there for a long time, and I'm worried about him." So you go chasing after this guy, and then it ends up teleporting you to this Roman city underground in the past. So it's like Groundhog Day with, oh god, I don't even know how to mix it. Like, basically, so you get into the past, and then you're told, hey, there's this golden rule here that basically says you cannot do any crime, no murder, no theft, no betrayal, no lying, like, basically don't do anything bad, or literally everyone here will die and turn to gold. So you're tasked with kind of tracking down anyone who might break what's called the golden rule. It's just about solving that mystery. I can't say too much without spoiling it, because there's a bunch of different turns. There's like 5 different endings that you can get, I think 4 or 5.
Okay.
Say if someone breaks, or you break the golden rule, a teleporter at the start of the city where you popped through the cave shows up. You go through it, it restarts your day. So you're basically just going through the same day over and over again.
Okay.
By the end of that day, the golden rule will always be broken. So you have to figure out how to get out or how to save people within that time frame before you have to do another loop.
It's kind of okay. It's kind of like the Outer Wilds or Happy Death Day, where you have like a time limit of a day to figure out this mystery. Okay.
Happy Death Day is actually a pretty apt comparison, I think. I haven't played Outer Wilds, so I can't comment on the.
Gotcha. It's this, but in space.
But yeah, really fun. Not like groundbreaking or anything, but I enjoyed my time with it, and you could probably finish it just like any other Elder Scrolls big side quest or whatever. Probably finish it in like 2 hours or whatever if you just beelined it. But if you're talking to everyone and kind of doing all the side things, and it's more of like, again, with Kena, 8 hours sort of thing.
You have a unique way of finding these like indie games that I would have never heard of and play them and review them.
So with both of these in particular, and Hot Wheels previously, and what was the other one? There was one before that I can't remember, so it must have really stuck with me. But with those 4 games, I did a free GameFly trial. So that's usually like it's that or Game Pass is usually what I do with like how I get into these more like low key titles or less celebrated ones anyway. And so I just use that time to kind of power through some smaller stuff. Now that my free trial has ended, or I think it was like $1 trial, I'm back to Elden Ring. So,
well, if it makes you feel any better, and I don't know why you would feel worse, but I started Tales of Arise, which is, of course, from the Tales of series. If you're familiar with the JRPG games like Tales of Symphonia, Tales of Basaria, Legendaria, kind of those games. They're very famous JRPG series, and it's just it could take 100 hours to finish this game. So, but what I do like about this entry is that they're using a new game engine, and so it's got kind of this cel shaded but 3D animation that's way better than any other entry that's come out, and it's been like I want to say over 5 years, over 6-7 years since the last Tales of game that wasn't a mobile game. Let's look it up because we got time and I don't give a shit.
Basaria 2.
Nope, they didn't have a sequel.
Didn't?
Tales of. I wish I had a more unique title, but let's go with
by the way, if you want to play Forgotten City, I'm pretty sure it's on Game Pass as well.
Oh, well then, I might check it out. The last one was Tales of Berseria in 2016. So quite a while ago.
Trick of time,
Did not like Zestiria, but they're basically it's an anime. It's an anime JRPG fantasy game.
What's your favorite Tales?
So far, it's still Symphonia, because it holds a soft spot in my heart and because it was nearly perfect. The last time I played Tales of Symphonia, I got to a point to like this third to last boss. And unfortunately, I saved like right before it, and I didn't have enough. I don't have enough like potions to heal my characters enough to survive that boss, and then the 2 bosses after it. So,
that's really fucking funny because it's funny to me because I've never finished Symphonia for the same reason.
Really,
it's right before a boss that I had saved, and I really like Symphonia, but I got to a point where it's right before a boss. I'm under-leveled. I have no healing items, and you just get fucking wrecked. And there's no like autosave feature or like you have. It was before I knew better to rotate saves or anything like that. So I never went back and finished it.
Well, the reason I picked up Tales of Arise was one because I've been looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of the series, but also because I no longer have a Switch and I can't play Xenoblade Chronicles
Mm,
3, which just came out, and I would have picked that up.
yeah.
So it was kind of a weigh my pros and cons. Right so far, I like it. The only reason I haven't been playing more of it is because I'm still playing Genshin Impact and I'm still spending my daily amount of time that I allow myself to play video games to do my Genshin Impact daily quests
Yeah.
or save up Prima Gems for the next banner. And I fucking hate it, but I also don't because I have a shit ton of characters, and I'm glad without spending too much money. I spent a reasonable amount of money, but yeah, just building up my characters right now until version 3.0. No, two. Yeah, 3.0 in the
Are
summer.
you gonna jump ship to space Genshin or
Are you talking about ZZZ or?
yeah? No, that was the like skater one or whatever, right?
That's
There were like three things that
yeah. Hold on.
this studio announced. What was it, State of Play or fuck? What was it?
They just
Not E3 or whatever.
they have like their own. They literally have their whole section of fandom. They have their own. Again, are you talking about Honkai Impact?
No, well, I think one of them is related to Honkai.
Trying to,
What was it?
we're gonna find
It
out.
was-
Honkai Star Rail, which that's what it is.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I'm equally interested in Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero. It just depends on which drops first and how much longer I'm going to be intrigued into Genshin Impact. Because if I'm still burned out by Genshin Impact by the time one of these comes out, I'm not going to check it out. I was very close one day, like 3 months ago, of starting Honkai Impact the third when I was still playing Genshin Impact religiously, and I'm glad I dropped it immediately because it's a beast to start. Genshin itself is a beast to start because it kind of just it drops you it like random cutscene and then boom, you're in a big old fantasy world.
Yeah.
The same thing with Honkai Impact the third.
Well, that's kind of always the thing with those, games as a service, live service sort of things, where the longer it goes on, the harder it is for new people to jump in. Despite, literally every time they do a new update or whatever, there's never been a better time to pick up Final Fantasy 14 with the acclaimed, award-winning Heavensward.
And the fucking the people like our mutual friend who. Or no, it's you that plays Final Fantasy 14 or used to. And I'm like, you know what? I want to get into that because people are saying it's never been a better time to start this game. So,
okay, you know what? Though, and I don't think it's no, I think they've started updating. I haven't played 14 in a while because one, I was on a free trial when Endwalker came out.
Yeah.
And they stopped trial passes for a minute while that was like they were getting hammered on servers. You basically had to queue up for hours to get in. It's since diminished, after the initial like wave of newly engaged players went down. But once I finish Elden Ring, I will probably be jumping back on to 14. And I'm super excited because I don't know if you remember me bitching about this when I was playing it. There are specific raids, or not raids, like I can't remember what the terminology is, but there's basically like dungeons that you have to do with 4 people,
right,
4 or 5 people, and you have to queue up for it, and it's a mandatory quest to get through the story. They've since started introducing auto queuing, or not auto queuing, I forget what it's called, but basically where you can go through it on your own. Either it partners you with computer versions of partners, or you just do it solo.
That's an easy quality of life decision to make for the developer.
So they're just progressing through the main storyline and just fixing all of those sort of dungeons to make it playable that way. And as they get through the main storyline, then they're going to start doing all the expansions. Heavensward, eventually Endwalker will have that too, from what I understand. So as much of a joke as it is, there kind of is never really a better time now to jump in.
Damn it. Well, again, the burn is getting to me because I still have like 2 months before 3.0 drops, but I don't know, man. I don't know how much longer I have on Genshin. That's both a joke and not a joke. So,
well, if you get a hankering for something similar ish in vein and the MMO down the line, then we can jump on 14 and
sounds good. I'll have to
we'll
re-download it.
We'll power level you through the first couple quests. And
okay.
whatnot.
I'll have you carry me like in a basket, like I'm
Yeah.
ET. But yeah, this has been something.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of the Good Goose Podcast where we recap everything that we've been watching, playing, talking about. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. Actually, we didn't have any hiccups this time. I'm really happy.
Yeah, shocking. Other than the birds,
Other than
now quiet.
Yeah.
Quieter. Oh, hey, don't you start.
Quieter. Yeah, sure. We will see you next week. Make sure to stay tuned in to our social media. Just follow Good Goose Inc. and you can see what our schedule is for the next week, as well as any fun pictures and fan art and things that are. Oh wait, it looks like it's my hand. Oh, okay. We will see you next time.
Bye.